I don't normally do unboxings, so instead this time I am going to insert some knowledge into this video. That's right, this is not just an unboxing video of showing you guys what I have. No, I'm going to slip in some education. Before we get started, I'd like to encourage you to hit that subscribe button. We put out geeky content every week, and if you'd like to be ahead of the curve, you can also hit the bell icon. Hello and welcome to HydraCollectables, where we let our geek flag fly. My name's Luke and I'm your host, and today we are unboxing a very special comic book, one that I have been after for a very long time. But before we get started, here's a little bit of history. So this particular book that I have, this particular package that I have received, is actually a book from Atlas Comics. Who are Atlas Comics, I hear you ask? Well, Atlas Comics was founded back in the 1950s, and they would later eventually become Marvel Comics. Previously known as Timely Comics, Atlas Comics was actually founded in 1951 by Martin Goodman. This was kind of an umbrella corporation, this was kind of like an umbrella title for all their various publishing works. As Timely Comics, this company had huge success during the war years, creating characters such as the Human Torch, Submariner, and of course Captain America. However, these superheroes weren't to last, and in fact if you check out my previous video, Are We Due a New Comic Book Age?, you will see the rise and fall of superheroes during that period. By the 1950s, Timely Comics had largely stopped producing superhero comics and turned their attention, like so many others, to horror, westerns, humour, espionage, and romance. One such title of these times was a title called Mystery Tales, which was a little bit like Tales from the Crypt, a little bit like those EC comics. It was an anthology series comprising of multiple stories within one book. Mystery Tales ran between 1952 and 1957 and had a total of 54 issues. And that, my friends, is what is in this box. That is what this unboxing is all about. This is one of those 54 issues. This is issue number 40. That's right, Mystery Tales number 40. So, before telling you guys why this book is so important, let's get to the unboxing. Now, I have been in discussion with a gentleman over in the States by the name of Scott, aka Cosmic Spider-Man, and we've been talking for it must be about 2 years now about whether or not I can get hold of this book. I have been after this book for so long, and seeing him list it multiple times on eBay, you know, we've had the conversation about how I might be able to get said book and also get it over here to the UK, which has not been an easy task. However, bless him, Scott finally reached out to me and said, let's make this magic happen. I've recently discussed how this was the only book that I was unable to achieve during the year 2020. I listed 6 books that I wanted to gain, and I gained 5 and missed out on this one. However, 4 days later, just 4 days into 2021, we were able to make this magic happen. We were able to make a deal, and that is what is in this box. So without further ado, I'm going to open it. I will say that it is a CGC book. It is graded. It is actually a grade 1.0, and I know a lot of you guys reach out for those high grades, but I tell you something, this presents absolutely beautifully for a 1.0. The main reason for it being a 1.0 is actually because the cover is detached. So the cover is detached and I believe separated, but it's all been held into place and it's all put back into the slab. So yeah, it presents beautifully. So let's get this thing open. So, through the power of television, here it is. Fully unboxed, fully opened. Here we have Mystery Tales, issue number 40. And yeah, I have been after this book for so many years. And I mean, look at it. It presents so nicely. I hope you guys can see that there, operating on a different camera. So yeah, I've wanted this book for so long, and it actually ticks 2 boxes in my collections. This is actually part of 2 separate collections of mine, one of which is my comic book collection. You know, this is a fantastic piece of comic book history, one of Steve Ditko's very early works. And as you guys know, Steve Ditko is the co-creator of Amazing Spider-Man, something that I hold very dear to my heart. The other thing that I hold very dear to my heart, for anyone that has watched my channel or seen me on any live streams, is I am a massive fan of Lost. and this very comic actually appeared in an episode of Lost. It was an episode called Cabin Fever, where we have one character visit another character at a young age and place various items down in front of him and have him choose which one belongs to him, and one of those items being this very comic. Now, I'm not going to go into spoilers about what else happens in the show, but it is worth noting that CGC actually referenced this and actually make note of it right here on the label, featured on the television show Lost in the episode Cabin Fever. So there you have it. Amazing piece of history, amazing find. Cannot thank Scott enough for his kindness in allowing this to happen. Like I say, we have spoken for almost 2 years now in how I could get hold of this book, and yeah, I am so thankful that we were able to come to an agreement and get this thing over here and have it as part of my collection. So Scott, aka Cosmic Spider-Man, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. This has found an amazing home here, and it's going to be one of my prized possessions for a very long time. So obviously this is a slabbed book, but let's go a little bit deeper into what is actually inside the book. Let's talk about the stories that are comprised within this story. Now, obviously I cannot open the slab, I cannot show you guys. However, what I can do is throw up a couple of images and give you a very brief walkthrough about what occurs in each of the stories. The first story within this book is actually called The Hidden Land, and this obviously has a little bit of reference to Lost, being the island that is hidden from sight from everyone. There's not really much else in this story that relates to that other than the title, but it's still worth noting. So, the synopsis of The Hidden Land. A man steals a mystic ring from monks in Tibet, which gives him fortune but ruins his health. When an employee takes the ring from his boss's desk, he thinks that the ring could bring him wealth too. However, the monks return and ask him to give back the ring. The second story within this book is titled A Warning Voice, and this one has a nice mystical creep factor to it. We're not really sure how this happens, kind of like time displacement or some sort of dimensional warp, but yeah, definitely something strange going on. Anyway, the synopsis goes as follows. A soldier's son is playing with an old record player, and it gets stuck at the phrase, "Watch out." And somehow, this man, during the battlefield, hears these warnings and is able to avoid the dangerous situations as he makes his way back to his family. The third story is called Crossroads of Destiny, and if any of you guys have seen Lost, you know that Destiny plays a massive role in that story. So, Crossroads of Destiny, this is basically a time travel slash multiverse type thing. This man invents a machine which enables him to see multiple timelines, and during a visit to one timeline, he sees that he was actually able to be happy with his childhood sweetheart, whereas in his own timeline he had sent her away. And the comic basically ends with him destroying the machine and going out looking for that woman once again in order to gain his happy ending. So the next story here is titled Sammy's Secret, and Sammy's secret is basically that he's an alien. A Venusian lost during an exploratory trip to Earth is adopted and must keep his ability to fly a secret. He is eventually picked up by his comrades and taken back to Venus, where everyone can fly. Moving on, we have another story, this one titled The Silent Stranger, and this one is basically a story about a statue that comes to life in order to help a small urban town rebuild and be better. And finally, the main one, the big story of all. This one not only ticks the box being a Steve Ditko art piece, but also the main one that really connects to the show Lost, and that is of course March Has 32 Days. So, how is this particular story connected to Lost? Well, it's quite simple really. During the time that Lost was on the air, there was a reality-based game that, audiences could play along with and find various things online and out in the real world in order to gain additional knowledge to the show. This was an amazing marketing strategy, and I do intend to go deeper into this during one of my videos further down the line. I played this game, I loved this game, and I was there on all the forums and everything else exploring these different avenues of mystery. This was something that Lost done exceptionally well, and like I say, we will talk about it further down the line. Now, this particular one, March Had 32 Days, is actually referenced in a Dharma Initiative recruitment video that was put out there online as one of these reality games. The synopsis for this story, March Has 32 Days, is basically a man called John Billings who fails to inspect a bridge on March the 31st in order to say goodbye to his wife Lisa at the airport. Later that day, the bridge collapses, and although no one is hurt, John feels incredibly guilty and wishes that he could do the day over again in order to inspect the bridge. Without explanation, he blacks out and wakes up to find that the date is still March the 31st. John is determined to inspect the bridge this time, but he is persuaded by one of his colleagues that the bridge has already been tested and he should just go to the airport with his wife. Whilst on his way to the airport, John realizes that he is actually doing the exact thing that he feared that he would, and so decides to drive to the bridge instead. There he finds a structural flaw and prevents the bridge from collapsing. John eventually dismisses this experience as a dream. However, astronomers note with great confusion that they have determined that in this particular year, March had 32 days, and we will never know why. And so there you have it. That is like the most Lost themed comic that there could be, but it doesn't stop there because there are other Lost references within this very story. Let's dive into them. John Billings said goodbye to his wife at the airport at 11:15 a.m. This is the same time that Sun had planned to make the excuse to leave Jin at the airport in Australia. This was in the episode House of the Rising Sun. At the airport, the numbers 42 and 8 appear first on the list of flights posted on the wall. John Billings' trip through time also parallels that of Desmond Hume's flashback in Flashes Before Your Eyes, where he is forced to relive the same day when he broke up with Penny. Also in this story, we have the distortion of time. We have something very unexplained. We have the astronomers looking at the fact that March has 32 days, and of course in Lost we have Daniel Faraday and his experiments with the island indicating that there is a displacement somewhere. And finally, in the episode of Lost, Whatever Happened Happened, we have Hurley and Miles debating the question on whether or not going back in time would allow a time traveler to change the outcome of events. This is just as John Billings struggles with the question of whether he'd be able to do anything differently if he was given the chance to go back. So there you have it. What a fantastic book. Not only an amazing Steve Ditko piece, but that one story that he worked on so closely entangled with the show Lost that I love so very much. I think that this is a pattern that kind of occurs with Damon Lindelof, one of the creators of Lost, because he obviously loves this book. He obviously knows the stories within and used them as part of his storytelling for the show. He also done something very similar with his follow-up series, The Leftovers, where he uses a National Geographic book or catalogue or whatever you want to call them, in order to basically pan out things from the show. And maybe one day I'll do a video there too, because that is an amazing foreshadowing. That's for lack of a better term, that's all I can really say. If you own these books during the time of watching these shows, you can see where the show is going based on what is in these books. It's a fascinating way of writing, something that I've never really seen before. You know, he's kind of special and unique in that way, and I'm not sure many people realize it. So yeah, I am so happy to own this book. Scott, thank you one last time. Really do appreciate it. You've been fantastic. That's all I can say. It arrived here amazingly secure. I'm just, yeah, thank you. So yeah, with that in mind, I am signing off. I've done it, guys. I got all of my grails for 2020, albeit 4 days late, but goal achieved, achievement unlocked. Did you guys manage to get all the books that you wanted in 2020? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you didn't, are you going to seek them out in 2021, or have you created a whole new list? Let me know what you're hunting. And until next time, I'll see you in another life. Take care.